be here, one of our state veterans nursing homes, and named after somebody who earned the Medal of Honor, which is our nation's highest military award, and that's very meaningful even after all these years. That service was decades ago, but I think it's really appropriate that we're memorializing that with the namesake here, Valderrama Lopez. We're here with Hammer Hartzell, who's our Executive Director of the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs, and then Jenny Steniford, and you're going to hear about their story, her family's story, because one of the bills we're signing really addresses an issue that is really good that we're addressing in the state of Florida. Look, as a veteran, I will tell you that I'm proud of what Florida does for veterans. We're the most veteran-friendly state in all of these United States. Now, I also remember as in the Navy, and I know we have Air Force, I know we have other services in different parts of the state, but we have some places that were heavy Navy, Northeast Florida, Pensacola, and whenever you got assigned in Florida, and people that spend their career in the military, you go somewhere else every 2-3 years. They would always maintain that Florida residency. So you're serving in Mayport, you end up in Norfolk or San Diego, you're a Florida resident. And if you're a Florida resident, if you're stationed in San Diego, you don't pay California income tax. You get to pay no Florida income tax. So we have that advantage. And so, but what happens is okay, do we got, all right. So someone leaning up against something, I don't know. But what happens is that's a good enticement. And so people have been Florida residents and then they retire, and not even people that retire. I mean, sometimes people serve 4 or 5 years and then leave the service. But for those who serve their 20 and retire, they are fortunate to be able to choose, okay, where do I want to go? A lot of them come back to Florida. And we view that as a very positive thing for our state and our communities. And we've done things like streamline veterans being able to become teachers and all kinds of stuff to be able to harness this. And so we're proud of what we've been able to do. One of the things I noticed when I was in the military, and I'm getting out of active duty, and look, I didn't need anything, I was fine, but they give you like exit stuff, and it's supposed to be materials to help you. It's just bureaucracy. You don't know. It's just numbing. And I'm like, man, that's not really what we want to do. So we've worked really hard to help facilitate this. One of the bills we talk about today is going to be able to do. But if you look at what we've done just since I've been governor, we want to make it so that this is a good place to be a veteran, good place to be a spouse of an active duty military members. And I think those who've been in that know that the spouse is serving too, because you have the service member maybe gets deployed. Oftentimes they have kids, and this does require sacrifice and service. So we understand that for sure, and we've got a lot of different things that we've done to be able to do. We have done things with the Department of Education to help veterans that I don't think any other state has done. So we have a military veteran certification pathway that I mentioned about teachers. So we believe military veterans have a lot to offer to young people, and we've created an ability for them to get a 5-year temporary teaching certificate as they work towards their 4-year degree. And the thing about this with teaching, and it's not just with military, we've done apprenticeship programs for all would-be teachers. You actually learn more by watching somebody do it and doing it yourself than you do sitting in some of these schools, especially the schools of education, which a lot of that is indoctrination at this point. So we believe that you learn by doing. And certainly with the military, to be able to harness that experience is something good. When we did this pathway a couple years ago, there was some teacher union flunky in some part of Florida that said, "Oh, well, what does a veteran have to offer serving in Afghanistan? Who cares?" Like, that's what they were saying, and I'm like, that just shows you the mindset that you have some folks. And oh, by the way, in Florida, we beat those school unions on COVID. They wanted the schools shut. We had them open. We beat them on school choice. You now have universal school choice in Florida. The money follows the student, and the parents make that decision. We did a lot of choice for military back before we had universal, and they had probably the best deal in the country for active duty military. And then we now have no automatic deduction of school union dues. So you don't have to have the dues taken out. No automatic. If you want to write a check and give it, you know, they're going to do political advocacy with that if that's what you want, but why not have more in your paycheck? So we've done that, and as we're doing that, we're also delivering the largest increases in teacher salaries that we've ever done in the entire history of Florida. So that really spoke volumes when they attacked this program. I think it's good. I want students to be able to look up to a teacher. I want them to be able to see somebody that has put service above self, and when they didn't have to, and they're able to come back and continue service. We also, we have a bonus program that goes with that. Heroes in the Classroom, recruitment bonus of $4,000 to veterans who enter the teaching field, and additional $1,000 bonus who teach in high demand areas. And you know, the thing about it is, I mean, we've got veterans that have very significant technical expertise in sciences and things like that, and they apply that in a military context. Some of them are doing bomb squads, some of them are doing other stuff, but this is something that I think is met. Good. And then we have the credit or clock hour for military experience equivalency list. So we're guaranteeing service members and veterans college credit for any military courses or training they have already completed. So there's a lot of good training, academic training. Some people go to the Naval War College. Some people go to this. Any type of training you can then apply for college credit as you work towards your degrees. And getting a degree from Florida's universities, we have the top-rated public university system in America 6 years in a row. And now, we had a rough day yesterday at the College World Series. Both Florida State and Florida, they had great runs, but they got eliminated, and so they basically made it to the Final Four of college baseball. But the finals is going to be Tennessee and Texas A&M. But they had a good run, and we're proud of it. But I mean, academically, you know, we've done very well. And I'm always reminding people that we have not raised tuition since I've been governor. So in-state tuition averages $6,300 for our state universities. Where can you get that? I mean, heck, we give more for our scholarships for K-12. It costs the tuitions more in most K-12 schools. So we've held the line on that. But one thing that we do offer the word hasn't gotten out. Obviously, when we do good things, some people want to amplify it, other people want to muzzle it, depending on their political persuasion, particularly in the media. But you can, that $6,300 for in-state tuition, you can qualify. Grandparents can qualify for in-state tuition on behalf of their grandkids. So this is something where I run into people that say, hey, I'm going to Florida State, or I'm going to USF. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from Ohio. From where? I was like, oh, yeah. Do you have extended any family in Florida? Oh, my grandparents. I was like, well, why aren't you getting in-state tuition? Oh, really? Yes, you get it. So we're able to do that. But that's something that you really can utilize, and it saves the families a lot of money. So I had a mom come in to my office who I knew from other things, and she's bringing her daughter to Florida State, and was talking about, she was a New York resident, was talking about they're going to go visit their the grandmother in, I think it was the Villages or something like that. And I was like, oh, well, you're getting in-state tuition? Like, no. I'm like, yes, you can get it. And so we made it happen very quickly. So that's something that's really, really good, and that's regardless of veteran circumstances or not. Now, the First Lady, my wife, Casey, she started a program a few years ago now called Hope Florida, Pathway to Prosperity. And what we started doing it on with welfare and the child welfare system, Department of Children's and Families. And the notion is if somebody goes in to get a check from a bureaucrat and then they leave and then they come back to get a check, if that's the relationship, you're likely not going to break out of that, or it makes it much more difficult to break out of that. And so how do you actually lift people up? And what I think she believes and I believe is government oftentimes cannot solve problems. Sometimes government creates problems. Oftentimes government creates problems. But what could government do in that role is really facilitate connections with all the resources we have in our society, because we have charities, we have churches, we have businesses, we have individual volunteers who want to help. And so she created something called the Care Portal. So if somebody goes in, they have a need, maybe it's a single mom with a young kid and they lost their apartment, they need a place to stay. Instead of having that be just a government problem, it goes into the portal, all the churches that are involved, all the charities, all the nonprofits, everyone that's involved, they get a notice that Sally needs a place to stay. And you know what happens? You're going to have somebody that come to help. And when that happens, oftentimes those are not people going back for government assistance. They're on a pathway where they're involved in the community and are doing it. So it's been very effective. We've now taken on Hope Florida close to 30,000 people that are totally off government assistance entirely now, or very severely curtailed government assistance, and that's usually not the tale of how government works. I mean, they did the war on poverty in the 60s, and they didn't end poverty, they created dependency and created a lot of social pathology. So this is something that has been very successful. So the question is, how do you harness that in other endeavors? So we recently started doing that with the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I'm a big believer, and it goes back to me being in the military, getting out, seeing the stuff that they gave me and not understanding a word of what they were trying to tell me. And I didn't need help, I was good, but I know a lot of other people could have used a hand there. And so you go in, and the federal VA is really a cumbersome bureaucracy. So you go in, and if all the hopes are on those bureaucracies, you're not going to be serving the veterans the way we need to. However, this is true in a lot of places in our country, but certainly in Florida. You have huge numbers of charitable groups that are created, and their mission is to help veterans in a variety of different ways. We had, when I was a U.S. Congressman in our district, we had a group called Canines for Warriors. They would train service dogs and pair them with veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress. Huge reduction in suicides as a result of doing that. We tried to get the VA to utilize that, and they dragged their feet for years and years, and finally the legislation was able to get across the finish line making them do this. But that's an example. You have folks that will build veterans' homes. I mean, I remember seeing some of these custom homes that I've been able to tour for many years throughout Florida, where they're custom built for veterans that may have really serious injuries. Maybe they're amputees. You have all this stuff's being done, and many more, scholarships, you name it. But veterans got to know it's out there. You also have businesses that want to help veterans. A lot of the corporate community will jump at the opportunity to help veterans in their community. Then you have the faith-based community. They want to be involved to help not just veterans, but certainly veterans when they need something. And the thing is, a lot of the struggles veterans have, particularly in my post 9/11 generation, these are not all physical struggles. A lot of this stuff is emotional, it's spiritual. And so being able to have the faith community involved is a huge positive. Then you just have individual volunteers. There's people in this region of the state that if you said, hey, we may need to call on you to go help a veteran someday, maybe just bring them dinner or take them out to lunch or something, there's people that would jump at the opportunity on that. And so now we're working towards, you go in Department of Veterans Affairs in the state, and you go into the portal, and then now these groups are a part of it, and they are knowing, hey, this veteran needs some help for post-traumatic stress. This veteran needs help with housing. And it's not just about a government program. It's not just about a bureaucracy. It's about linking the veteran with all these tremendous resources that are in society. So this has only been on the VA level. We're just months into this, and they have already served over 500 veterans and veteran family members, and they have helped 250 overcome a housing barrier, 175 with a basic needs barrier, over 75 with a VA benefit barrier, and that's a cottage industry in and of itself, just trying to get the VA benefits. I mean, it's like you need to hire like law firms to be able to do this, and you know, a lot of these veterans, I mean, well, first of all, I don't think anybody really understands the bureaucracy of the VA, so we have that. Around 50 with an employment barrier and almost 50 with a legal barrier. The success rate for resolving these barriers for our veterans is right now with this Hope Florida model applied to the veterans community, 85% success rate in resolving problems. I mean, so when has government ever batted 85% on anything? Not likely to happen, right? So that's good. So we also have, under the First Lady's leadership, which she launched about 2 years ago, continued the mission recruitment campaign in partnership with Florida Department of Children and Families and Department of Veteran Affairs. We want to recruit veterans, military spouses, and former law enforcement officers who still have a desire to serve their communities into service of the state as child protective investigators, adult protective investigators, and case managers in our child welfare system. These are difficult issues, a lot going on there. Getting good people involved is a big deal. We now have had over almost 250 veterans hired as investigators with DCF through this initiative. So that's making an impact too, and the quality of the performance will certainly go up as a result. We've done a lot of different legislative initiatives that we've been able to sign. Our budget that I signed the budget last week. So Florida, our budget that I signed for the upcoming fiscal year actually spends less than what we're spending in the current fiscal year. Who else is doing that in this country? But even though we're spending less, we have record education funding. We have record infrastructure and transportation funding, and we've accelerated road projects that need to be done. We have record funding for things like conservation, Florida Springs, our coastlines, all this stuff we've been able to do. So we're doing the things that make a difference in your life. We're vetoing pork projects or whatever, but protecting taxpayers, holding the line overall on spending, but the money that we are spending, we're making an impact with, and that's really the way it should be done. And even amongst that, we got $500 million in the budget for accelerated debt repayment. So you now have, the state of Florida, the lowest per capita state debt in the entire United States of America. The U.S. The U.S. government obviously has a $34+ trillion debt. If you parcel that out amongst each American, that means each and every solitary American would owe over $100,000 a pop. If you parceled out Florida state debt, each Floridian, and it would never come to this, but each Floridian would owe about $600. So that's a much bigger, different picture that we're dealing with. So we're happy with that, but we got $500 million to retire debt even more rapidly. So even before that goes into effect, we've retired 36% of the state's taxpayer-supported debt. That's from the entire history of Florida till the present. We've knocked out 36% of it. That $500 million will let us do even more, and that is saving tens of millions of dollars in interest payments for taxpayers on these bonds and whatnot. So it's good management, and we're proud of that. So it's a good budget, but then within that, we got over $80 million across various agencies for veterans initiatives in the state of Florida, workforce preparation, medical assistance, education opportunities, helping homeless veterans. get in a stable situation, as well as legal services for veterans. We also have $17 million in additional funding for the Florida Department of Veteran Affairs to do, among other things, provide dental care for low-income veterans, 6 new veterans claims examiners to assist veterans in obtaining the federal benefits that they're owed. I mean, how crazy is this that the state has to hire people to help veterans get their federal benefits? But that's the federal government that we have for you. Assisting veterans in translating their military experience to meet state licensure requirements to ease the transition into civilian life. Also, money to support equipment and capital improvements at veterans' homes across the state, and to begin building a new veterans long-term care facility in Collier County upon approval of a federal grant. So that's a really significant win for the department. And I'm pleased to announce that with the addition of the Collier County State Veterans Nursing Home, Florida will have the most state veterans nursing homes in the entire United States of America. So we're doing it. Which brings us why we're here today. And we've got two really good bills. The first bill that I'm going to sign is House Bill 725. And you're going to hear a minute of story here about why this is necessary. But what it does is it expands the eligibility for admissions to a veteran's long-term care facility to include spouses and surviving spouses of qualifying veterans. You have situations where veteran has been separated effectively from the spouse because the spouse is not eligible to be in a veteran's nursing home. We have changed that with this piece of legislation. First of all, it's just the right thing to do. When you have a surviving veteran and the spouse, we want to keep them together. But even when the veteran unfortunately passes on, we recognize that that spouse has also served, and that spouse deserves our support as well. Not really swearing an oath, but it's kind of an implicit oath that they take to do what they can to help the veteran. So we think that this is something that's appropriate. I'm not sure how many other states do this. Do you know how many? Just a very few states. So we're on the vanguard yet again on that. But this is important. There's valuable care that's provided at our veterans nursing homes. We have a bunch of services all the way down to hospice care. And we want to make sure that families are kept together, spouses are kept together. So you'll hear a little bit more about that in a second. I'm also signing HB 1329, which revises existing programs and expands benefits for folks here in Florida. And these are programs, many of which are designed to help the veteran transition to civilian life. And so we've done a lot of good work in this area. This is going to make it even better. Some of it will be marketing, some of it will be providing awareness, some will be providing outreach, but I think that once people know that they have these tools at their disposal, there's a lot that can be done at that point. Now, and what we want to do too is help veterans get to preferred markets, preferred industries, because there's a lot going on in the state of Florida, I can tell you that. I mean, I remember when Pasco County, I grew up in Pinellas County. Pasco County was considered rural. Now you've got, how many people live in Pasco County now? It's incredible. So, and you're seeing that all over. I ran into somebody that grew up in Polk County, and that was viewed as very rural. They got over 800,000 people now in Polk County. This is just what's happening to the state. So there's a lot of opportunities, and we want to make sure that we're helping the veteran realize those opportunities, training programs, what have you. Now, the bill also provides free hunting, fishing, freshwater and saltwater fishing licenses to all disabled veterans. So you take that. We also create and fund the Major John Leroy Haynes Florida Veterans History Program within the Department of State's Division of Arts and Culture to record the stories of Florida's veterans and preserve them for future generations. When we had the 80th anniversary of D-Day, I announced, and we don't have very many surviving members. And we identified some in Florida. Most of them were going over to Normandy to do the ceremony, which is totally appropriate. And we said, when you get back, we're going to award all surviving D-Day veterans the Florida Medal of Merit, which is our highest honor for exceptional meritorious service to either the state or country. But we said, we're not going to do like a big ceremony in Tallahassee because it's hard to get around. It's a big state. So when we're in your area, we will do. So, we had a guy, a fella down in Miami the other day. We were able to present it to him. Signed up in the Navy in 1943. Is there in D-Day in 44, bringing the tanks ashore. Then he goes to the Philippines, then Japan, and did great service to the country. But the connection to those folks has dwindled because most of them have passed on at this time. So really, it's up to us to make sure that future generations understand what it means. And I think that this program to record these stories and preserve them, I think is really, really important. And this bill even goes further with that. We are requiring in the state of Florida middle and high school students to receive instruction on the history of Veterans Day and on the history of Memorial Day, which is good. So, it's like they say the U.S. is laboratory of the states or laboratories of democracy. So if you want the schools to be teaching first graders that they can switch genders, like, California's got that covered. If you want schools teaching students, which we do, about the evils of communism, about what it means to be an American citizen, and about the history and the sacrifices that went into Memorial and Veterans Day, well, then Florida is the place for you. So I think we're doing it right, and I'm proud that we're able to do that. So these are going to be two good bills. We're going to hear from Hammer, then we're going to hear from Jenny Steniford about what this, particularly the Veterans Nursing Home component, means to them, and then we'll sign it and make it official. So come on up.
Hello, everybody. Marine generals don't have a problem following somebody speaking at a podium. Difficult, right? A blessing, a blessing. So, Governor, it's my distinct honor to be able to say on behalf of Florida's 1.4 million veterans that we sincerely appreciate your strong leadership of our great free state of Florida. Florida veterans are honored that you're our governor. We're honored because we know that you're the only currently serving governor who has deployed overseas, who made personal sacrifices in the defense of our nation in a combat theater of a war. He's the only one, right there. And for everybody here this morning, on behalf of my Florida Department of Veterans Affairs, your Department of Veterans Affairs, and the amazing staff at this beautiful, compassionate nursing home, welcome. It's the Baltimore Lopez State Veteran Nursing Home, and it's really fitting, as the governor said, and it's also honorable that the governor chose this special location to sign these two veteran-related bills. This home is named after Medal of Honor recipient First Lieutenant Baltimore Lopez, who selflessly gave his life for his fellow Marines during the historic 1950 landing in Incheon. This Florida-born Marine was raised just 20 miles south of here, and for the Marines directional, it's that way, right? And we're so honored to carry on his amazing legacy of service, and especially his self-sacrifice in this beautiful veterans home. I want everybody to know that because of our governor's clearly defined commander's intent, his desired mission success and in-state for our state's veterans, Florida continues to be and has been the most sought-after state in the nation for veterans and their families. Since taking office, our governor and his administration, with the full support of our Florida legislature, have allocated hundreds of millions of dollars to address and improve Florida veterans' issues and needs. Today, he'll be signing two key Veterans Bill legislation pieces that reinforce and build on that success. The first bill, as the governor mentioned, expands resident eligibility in our Florida veterans' homes to include spouses and surviving spouses who need skilled nursing care themselves. This is the honorable thing to do, and it's the compassionate thing to do. And because of that, it's going to be well received by our veterans and every other citizen in our great state. The second bill the governor will be signing today will record the stories and the history, as he said, of Florida's veterans. It'll preserve them for our future generations, right over there, through a new state veterans history program named after the late Marine Major John Leroy Haynes, who served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. He didn't get enough. A great American who is a lifelong veterans advocate, and it's so fitting and honorable that we're going to be naming this historical program after him because of who and what he was. Additionally, the same bill reinforces Veterans Florida as the initial point of transition assistance for service members leaving active duty who decide to come to Florida and raise their families, secure meaningful employment for themselves and their spouses. Of special importance, personal, heartfelt importance to me as a veteran and as a grandfather, this bill encourages the instruction on the history and the significance of Veterans Day and Memorial Day in our now nationally recognized, best-in-class Florida schools. There's none better, and I'm glad they're going to be there. In fact, Florida is the most veteran sought-after state in the nation, and it's the most veteran-friendly state in the nation. We passed California last year to be the second most populated veteran state. Why? Because veterans are moving here. They're choosing to move here. I hear from veterans all the time, why'd you move to Florida? Why'd you leave California? Why'd you leave New York? They said it's because of this combat veteran right here. That's what they tell me. They said because of his common sense leadership during the pandemic. His leadership to ensuring that our Florida economy is both vibrant and resilient for the future. His leadership in advocating and for protecting parental rights. His respect for law and order and respect of our law enforcement officers. His unquestionable patriotism and love for our country, and his strong commitment to make Florida and America a better place for future generations than what it currently is today. That's why they're moving here. One of those veterans who recently moved here, I met Monday, just this past Monday. And when I see a veteran with a ball cap, it said Korean veteran, I walked up and I say, hey, sir, when did you serve? What service? Oh, I was in the Air Force. And he said, we actually were the Air Force at that time in Korean War. It was 1950. He was running for his life to the Pusan perimeter. He said, you know what, General, you're a Marine, right? I said, yeah. He said, I like Marines. You know why? He said, because they were the ones who were turning around and shooting their weapons toward the enemy while everybody else was running, right? I said, yeah, that's the Marines. But this gentleman, so he was looking, I was at a clinic, and I was doing a tour of people who want to help veterans' mental health. And I said, sir, how old are you? He paused, he stood up a little bit taller, and he gave me a fist bump. He said, I'm 95. I said, no way, no way. Sir, you're 95? Jack Morris. He said, yeah, I'm 95. And I said, well, how long have you been in Florida? I just assumed he'd been here forever. He goes, I just moved here. I said, oh, 95? Where'd you move from? He didn't say a state. His quote was, I left Gavin Newsom. So then I said, being a Marine, idiot Marine, I said, oh, you left California. General, I said, I left Gavin Newsom. I came here for Ron DeSantis. 95 years old, okay? And he drives himself. He's brilliant. He sent me a great follow-up email, and I told him, I'm going to use you, sir. You got your permission. I want to. He said, absolutely, General. I like Marines, he said. So, and I said, well, and I talked about nursing homes. He said, I'm not ready for that yet. And I said, well, if and when you get there, we've got the best in class in the nation. He said, I don't need that. I just met an 85-year-old in the Villages, and we're doing good. Jack Morris. So from 95, and I said, so then I'm talking, I said, Jack, why did you move here, honestly? He goes, because I want to finish the rest of my life in this state, not in that state. That's why he's here. One of the other veterans who recently moved here is my Marine son, sitting right there with my grandsons. Last year, he moved to Florida with his family, and I want to thank both you, sir, and the First Lady for your instrumental leadership in bringing our two amazing grandsons to the state of Florida. Thank you, sir. Governor, thank you again for your strong, focused leadership of our state, for your personal understanding and commitment to support our veterans and their families. Governor, sir, Semper Fidelis, and hoorah. Okay.
Are you in school? Where you go? Where? Oh, okay, good. Nice, great. Okay, all right, Jenny Steniford, come on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jenny Steniford, the daughter of Ken and Josephine Sizemore, and he has been here. My dad has been a resident here at this great VA facility. I first need to say who would have thought I would speak after our great governor and this general, so I'm going to do the best I can. Over 62 years ago, my dad was serving in Vietnam, and then they assigned him to Bangkok, Thailand. And we have heard this story so many times, and it's one of my favorites. Dad was walking down the street with his GI buddy, as he says, Bob Morrison, and he looked through the window of a jewelry store and grabbed his arm and said, "Oh my gosh, that's the prettiest woman I have ever seen." That was my mom. So as he went into the jewelry store, pretending to be buying jewelry, he got to know Mom, and they had this beautiful courtship, and then they were married there. So Mom is the youngest of 9 children. She left all of her siblings, her parents, her country to join her life with my dad, and trusted him, and they went on and started their life together. So through the course of that, I was born Fort Campbell, Kentucky. My brother, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And so, you know, he took a few of my speaking notes, our great governor, because I was going to say, though Mom wasn't in the military, she did help serve the military, packing up every time Dad was restationed, getting us ready. He did a second tour in Vietnam, and she took care of us. So she was a part of the military. And then you fast forward, and aging happens, and Dad has some falls, and then he is disabled. So we are grateful for this facility, my family and I, but they've had to be separated. And after that many years of marriage, Mom and Dad were never separated except when he served our country overseas. He's been a big protector of my mom. She's never even put gas in her car. Dad has always done that, and he has been there for her. So this bill just means so much to us. We thank you, Governor, for this. Because of this, my mom and dad are going to be able to live the rest of their lives together. And not only for our family, though it means so much, but all the other veterans and their spouses. And we are eternally grateful. So thank you.
So everyone who's going to participate in the bill signing, we'll get you over here and get staged.
We'll go on this side so y'all can.
Okay. Right here, Dad. Come out and then come around.
Can we move this?
All right. All right, are we good? Okay, let's clear the way so we get. Okay, so this one is HB 725. All right. Who wants one? You want one? Who else wants one? Well, I got you guys here.
Well, they're raised by Marines. They're good with this.
I have a youth. I know you do. Anyone else? Okay. All right. All right. And then now here's the standard veterans bill that have all the goodies in, including the fishing, hunting licenses. All right. Who wants one of these? I got 3 more.
I'll take one.
Anyone?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
One more?
For a Marine.
All right. All right. So, both of those, job well done. All right. Great job. Congratulations. Yep. Congratulations. Thank you. Yes, of course. Of course. Okay.
Very good.
And y'all know what this should say? It should say Governor DeSantis supports veterans.
Well, we're excited. I think this is these bills will make a difference, and we're gonna continue to lead the way on veterans issues. And I think with some of the stuff that we've done with the portal and the First Lady's initiative, I mean, that's just in the infancy. I think you're gonna see that explode. We have, like I said, throughout our country, we've got a lot of people who want to help veterans, but in the state of Florida, I mean, you know, up and down the state, we've got great folks in the community who put their money where their mouth is, either through charitable groups that they have formed, businesses, you name it. I think the potential is really unlimited with what we can do by linking the veteran with all that's out there. So I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to accomplish in the years ahead. And with that, I'm happy to take a couple questions.
Governor, you talked about reducing the state's debt in a post on X that you just, before you got here. You also talked about it here. However, with some homeowners getting ready to pay more for items like TECO and Duke and Citizen Property Insurance, how does reducing the state debt directly impact them today, who are some people who are going to be paying more to live right here in the state of Florida?
Well, one, I mean, doing fiscal mismanagement is not going to help anyone pay their electric bill. I mean, like, that's just, it's not the right thing to do. Two, within that we've done, that budget that's spent less than last year's reducing debt, we did $1.5 billion in tax relief, all geared directly to help Floridians who are struggling with the Bidenflation. For example, all the sales tax holidays, back to school, we have that again. Disaster preparedness, we had one that ended in mid-June. We've got another one starting third week of August. All the supplies you need, tax-free. We're also doing July Freedom Summer Month. Outdoor recreation items, tax-free. Save money here in the summertime, and we even have the tool tax holiday. Then we did $500 million to reduce taxes and fees on homeowners insurance policies. And so we obviously can't control how much with the inflation, but we can provide that relief, and that's going to be good. Then we did almost $500 million in toll relief. So you go, if you're a commuter, once you hit a certain number of tolls on your pass, you don't have to do anything. You just get 50% debit at the end of the month, and that saves people hundreds of dollars in some cases, depending on where they're doing. You know, you do have tolls in the Tampa Bay area. You have a lot of tolls in like Miami, a lot of tolls in Orlando. So some people spend $100 a month on tolls because if you have a job where you've got to get in different parts of a region, you're going through all the time. So that's something that's very, very meaningful. And then I think the last year's tax bill was $2.5 billion. Now some of that we don't count it towards this, but some of it is still there. These were permanent tax cuts. For example, in Florida, all baby items are tax-free. Diapers, wipes, strollers, cribs, you name it, anything you need to raise a baby is now tax-free. So we have taken action, particularly over the last few years, to provide relief for consumers and Floridians. Given what's going on in Washington, there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. I think they're going to run a $2 trillion deficit this year, and their deficit on a monthly basis is like $150 billion, $160 billion. Just to put that in perspective, that's the monthly federal deficit. Our entire state budget is $116.5 billion. So what they're doing has had big costs. So I think that the debt repayment is something that is part and parcel of having a state that is in good financial shape. We have a AAA credit rating, higher rated than the federal government, and then doing the things that we need that'll make a difference for people. The stuff we're doing with tax relief, that makes a difference. What we're doing to increase teacher salaries makes a difference. What we do when we do law enforcement recruiting bonuses of $5,000, that's in the budget again this year. That really makes a difference. What we're doing for conservation and making sure our springs have clean water and our beaches, all that contributes to the economy and our way of life. So these things all go together. But I think if you're doing things and you're not in a sound fiscal posture, the reality is the wheels will come off. And in Florida, we are the best managed state fiscally of all 50 states. And I don't even think it's close if you look at the numbers.
Governor, we hear stories about the ones we just heard about how your bill will bring spouses back together. Are you able to quantify how many families are actually going to be impacted by this?
I don't know that we can directly. I mean, I know we think that there's definitely a demand for this. A lot of it depends, of course, on who's going to be entering the system over the next few years. But the notion that we would want to have a barrier in this situation, that's just not right. And yeah, I mean, so it's going to, I mean, it's a relatively small number, but we don't want to have a barrier. I think this is a good example of doing the right thing for the right reasons. I think the veterans will appreciate it, the spouse will appreciate it. And look, I've said for years that spouses serve and need to be appreciated. I mean, even apart from this, I remember when I was in Iraq, we had people there with the Army who were there 15 months. So, you know, they literally, there was a deployment, because this was when they surged forces in Al Anbar province. They get there in early November, I think it was like 2006, miss Thanksgiving, miss Christmas, miss probably all the birthdays and everything. They did get, I think, a week where they could go back at some point during that. Miss Thanksgiving again, miss Christmas again, miss the other holidays again. And it's like, you know, that takes a toll. That's something that's really, really difficult. And not take anything away from previous generations, but we don't have a draft. So you're talking about a relatively small number of people that would do 15 months, and then they come home, then they deploy again and again, and that is really difficult. And of course, I mean, that creates strain to where families break up over that. That was not uncommon in the military. It's a tough thing. So, you know, when those spouses are there holding down the fort, that is a huge thing. It helps our warfighters to have the peace of mind to know that their family's doing well. And if they don't have that peace of mind, they're not going to perform as well in battle and in combat. So I've long believed this. I think it's just really, really important. And we're one of only a few states that are doing this, but it's the right thing to do. And I think it's keeping in character with the state of Florida being the most veteran-friendly state in these United States. Thanks, everybody. God bless.